All right, what's going on, everybody? Happy New Year, Merry Christmas, Happy Hanukkah, whatever. It's all over now. It's college football playoff time, and we have the results of round one of the playoffs. So we did, full disclaimer, we did do a podcast previewing this. Um, it was not able to be done due to technical difficulties, time issues, and whatever. But this will be out today, so I'm putting this out today. But anyway, joining me is the only Notre Dame fan that I know. Neither one of our teams are in the playoffs, so we are, you could say, unbiased in this, but I don't know if you could say that. Maybe not, but
Bowl game.
yeah. Oh, okay, whatever. Um, but anyway, joining me is Tony Battaglio. You want to give yourself a quick little shout out?
Uh, Follow me on Twitter. Just go. X. Sorry. Follow me on X, Twitter, whatever you
Yeah.
want to fucking call it.
Yeah. I will. I'll put it all in the description. But so first two playoff games were last night. Both of them ended up being really good playoff games. I kind of thought we would get one of these being a blowout. Didn't end up happening. So let's start off first. Alabama, Michigan goes into overtime. Michigan wins 20-27, or I should say 27-20 in overtime. Just initial reactions. What did you think from this game?
Great first half from Michigan. I expected Alabama to blow the doors off of them after the first couple series. I thought Michigan bounced back, but going into halftime, I think we talked about this in the group chat. The Wolverines led, but they dominated. They only led by 4 points, 3 points, something like that.
Mm-hmm.
They just, by the time when Bama scored to go up, I thought it was over. I never expected Michigan to win that game at that point, but they persevered, and I think they're going to win the national championship. Honestly, I think this is. Well, I can't use that term. We'd have to edit that out. This is like a nightmare come true for. I mean, me as a Notre Dame fan, I hate Michigan. Like, I can't stand Michigan. Obviously, you're a Buckeye fan. Like, you don't like Michigan either. But that game was kind of like the tale of two evils because I can't stand Bama either.
Mm-hmm.
But I think the worst nightmare is about to come true for a lot of people in Ohio. I think Michigan's going to win the national title this year.
Yeah, it was a crazy game. That first Michigan got lucky because that first drive was an interception that didn't end up being an interception. Had the foot out. Like it could have gone bad for Michigan early on, but um, they played their brand of football. I thought the defense actually did a much better job than I expected. Bama didn't. Jalen Milrow really didn't have a whole lot of time. They weren't really able to do anything offensively, sustainably. And then on the flip side, they played their brand of football. Blake Corum, 19 carries, 83 yards, had two touchdowns, one receiving and one rushing. So that was interesting. Um, they really didn't do anything more than what they do. I mean, Roman Wilson had 73 yards and a touchdown, but that was only on four
I think
receptions.
he had the catch of the game. Let's not forget that.
Yeah.
He arguably that catch won that game for Michigan.
Yeah, for sure. But they played their brand. They ran down the throats of Alabama and couldn't really do anything to stop it. And that's the weird thing about Michigan is they're not a home run hitting run team. They're a 10-yard, 5 yard,
Wear you
seven
down.
yard. Yeah.
They'll wear you down, and they break one.
Yeah. Which I didn't really think was going to be a good matchup, heading against Alabama, but obviously it ended close in a overtime finish with Michigan going up to punch their ticket to Houston, but um JJ McCarthy in this game, did he impress you at all? What did you see from him heading into this championship game?
I saw a lot of this on Twitter. A lot of Buckeye fans that we both follow saying McCarthy looked awful. I thought he looked awful at first, but I thought he did enough to get them the win. I mean, if you look past the stat, he put decent stats up. Even if you want
Mhm.
to count that interception technically, like he put decent stats up. He was good enough to get the job done, and that's what matters. And I think that's what we're going to see in the national title game. We're not going to see him, equal Michael Penix throw for throw. We're going to see Michigan play their brand of football, and we're going to see them use that defense to lean on. And Michigan's defense is a lot better than Texas's defense, and I think Washington's in for a long night.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know, dude. JJ, you talked about the numbers stat line. It was 17-27, 221, and 3 touchdowns. So that is not bad at all, obviously. But comes in context too. I thought JJ at times in this game very well easily could have handed Alabama this game. There was multiple times where he tried to, but like you said, there was those handful of plays where he just got the job done, and he didn't do anything special. He just executed on a
I
couple
think there
couple
was
plays.
multiple times throughout the game that Michigan's offensive coordinator almost handed Alabama the game, just trying to get too
Yeah.
cute. I mean, I know it worked, but that double pass where JJ was going off of his back foot, like
Hmm.
it worked. It's good because it worked. Or the flea flicker they attempted, or the 3rd down and 2 call where they tried to screen it out to their backup QB and have him run it. Like, I just thought they tried to get too cute sometimes. And against a team like Alabama, you can't do that. They play too disciplined.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. So that's the first game. Michigan wins 27-20. Did not see this game going this way, personally. Um, I give it to them. They were able to play their brand of football, like I said many times here, against a Nick Saban team. I thought Saban was going to do everything he can to stop the run, and they just couldn't. Couldn't. Whether if they didn't have the firepower to do it, I don't even think it's that. I think Michigan just had the offensive line and just executed better. And you know, before we move on, the very last thing I want to talk about this game, right? Michigan scores, Alabama's down in OT to tie the game, come back, and they call a QB draw. What was your thoughts there? What's your take on this? Because everybody's sparking about this one.
My thoughts about that were welcome to watching Tommy Rees call a football game. That you now understand my pain of watching him try to run the Notre Dame offense. You
Mhm.
notice he's gone this year, and that offense was leaps and bounds better than they have been in years past. And yes, Sam Hartman is a lot of that, but even in the bowl game, they looked flawless, even with Steve Angeli, even without Audric Estime. And I mean, yeah, welcome to Tommy Rees Bowl, Alabama. You're not going to enjoy it.
Yeah, that was. I understand the thought process of like, hey, nothing's really working, and just put it in the hands of Milrow, but the
And
execution.
yeah, sorry not to cut you off. Milrow is to blame for that too. If he would have
Mhm.
followed his pulling guard, he scores.
Yep.
The low snap, the bad read, like Bama shot themselves in the foot a
Mhm.
lot during the Rose Bowl.
Yeah, and even going back before that play, just the previous plays, they threw a ball. I don't think it was a screen pass, but Milrow just dumped it off right to the side for like a 1 yard gain. It's like
Yeah,
I don't know. I don't know. I disagree with how they handled that in overtime. Right, with the new college rules, I guess it's not even really that new anymore. But both teams get shots, and they got their shot back, and I think they absolutely mishandled it. But like you said, Milrow just didn't follow his pulling guard. Um, and they're stopped, and that's the game. So.
I if Milrose scores there, I think Bama wins because I think they would have traded touchdowns once again. And then once you get into 2 point conversion plays, I
Mhm.
think Bama had a much better shot at winning that than Michigan did.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. Um, Only other thing I'll say is it did surprise me how easily in overtime Michigan was able to run the ball. Like I thought for sure they were gonna say, "All right, JJ, like this is your time to do something," and it was easy. It was very easy. They ran the ball fine, and then I believe that was the receiving touchdown, right? Was
No. Corum, his opening touchdown was a little like dump off in the flat.
yeah,
That
okay.
overtime touchdown, he was just spinning, breaking tackles.
Mhm.
Grown man
Okay.
run right there for Blake Corum. And then let's get to the second game so we don't linger too long and
Yeah, yeah.
highlight that.
So Michigan at this point going to Houston. And then the night game, the game that I was pumped to watch, Texas versus Washington. This game lived up to the hype, in my opinion. This was a
Absolutely.
very, very, very fun game to watch. Um, I there's a lot of things you could say about this game. I'll let you go first. Of course, the final score 37-31. Washington wins. Texas tries to come back and a last second hope, and then
So
right over his head.
one of my biggest complaints, and I tweeted this, Kalen DeBoer. It's 3rd and 5. There's 50 seconds left, something along those lines. Texas has no timeouts. Why are you running the football? Kneel on it, run the clock to 20 seconds, punt it. Run the football. You lose Dylan Johnson for the national title game, most likely. You lose an impact player right there. One less player for Michigan to worry about. You, the injury timeout. And then that gives Texas that opportunity to come back. If Art, or sorry, not Arch Manning, more on him later. If Quinn Ewers puts one of those balls through those first 3 end zone shots on target, that game ends very differently. We have Texas, Michigan in the national title game. Ewers, until that 4th down play when he finally put it there, and that Washington DB made an incredible play on the ball. Texas honestly should have won that game.
Mm-hmm.
And speaking of Arch Manning, I was kind of disappointed in Coach Sark for not kind of putting some more wrinkles in his playbook and working Archie into the game. He's good with his feet. He's a hometown kid from New Orleans. They're playing in New Orleans. Probably would have been the loudest reaction of the night if you sub Arch in and start running some package, 1 or 2 packages with him. I thought it'd been a nice wrinkle, a game changer. You could have even brought him around on a sweep and let him throw the football from a jet sweep.
Mm-hmm.
Like they could have done so much more with that.
Yeah, dude, this game was crazy. Like this is one of I was wrong about both of my guesses. I tweeted out before the game. I think Bama handles Michigan, and then I think Texas upsets Washington. And yes, you could argue they should have, but um, this game was all sorts of fun. Michael Penix, dude, we have got to start talking about him. I know right now, obviously, you have the championship game coming up, but obviously this is further down the road, but he should be a top 10 pick. This guy was making NFL throw every single time he had the ball in his hands. He finished 29 to 38, 430 yards, 2 touchdowns. Um, you know, that Washington offense, you mentioned it, Dylan Johnson goes down with the injury. What do they do there? Are they going to have anybody to step up?
You're
Uh,
see a lot more QB reads with Michael Penix keeping the football.
Yeah. And that's the thing too. I think, when you look at these two games and trying to preview the national championship, um, they let Penix run a little bit in this game. And obviously he's had the 2 ACL injuries with the surgeries and everything. So running him is not obviously the number one choice, but that's one of the things in their back pocket that they have not really pulled out a whole lot this season. And I think if I'm Michigan, I would prepare for it because that dude, Michael Penix, is 6'3". I think he's like 220, 218, something like that. But he can move. He's a big quarterback and he can move. And he's throwing up 400 plus yards consistently, and he can move. When you break down these numbers, Romo Dusnier, 6 receptions, 125. Polk, 5 receptions, 122 and a touchdown. And then you had Jack Westover, 59, McMillan 58, and then Jeremy Bernard 48 yards.
They spread the ball around. That's going to be the key to the. If Michigan has to stop those very talented wide receivers if they want to be successful. I think they can key more on that now with the absence of Dylan Johnson.
Yeah. I mean, dude, they don't it's easy to say they spread it out, but they are so effective at it. That's what the crazy thing is. It's not like they have like for us, you have a Marv who's going to put up the number one stats in the game. He's the guy when he's out, like you saw against Missouri. Nobody is going to take away that threat. Like there's nobody who is as big of a threat as he is. And when he's not on the field, you don't have to really worry about one guy. There's not a guy right now that at the time Missouri had to deal with. And with Washington, it's almost the same thing with multiple players. I mean, you have Oduzne, Polk, Westover, McMillan, Bernard, all with 48 yards or more in this game. And that's with a run game that put up 50 yards.
Yeah, it's going
So,
to be. That's going to be the key right there. Is Michigan's corners against Washington's receivers and Corum and Edwards against the Washington defense. Personally, I think Michigan's defense is a little too good to be exposed like that through the air. But we'll see.
yeah, you want to just preview that game now?
I think we'll get a back and forth game. But like I said earlier, in the end, I do think it's doomsday. I really do think Michigan's going to win the national title this year. As much as I hate to, I'm stuttering trying to say that because I hate having to say that. But hail to the victors, I guess.
There's a part of you that wants to say it. I can see it. I can see it.
Just upset a couple certain people, maybe, but
Yeah.
yeah.
So there's a couple things for me in this game. It's strength on strength, obviously, right? Washington's high-powered pass offense, uh, and then you have Michigan with their downhill running offense. That's what it is. Both are the strengths of their team. Which offense is going to do what? For me, obviously it comes down. I mean, Johnson versus Oduze. Rome Oduzne. I got to learn how to say his name because he's going to be an NFL receiver. That's going to be fun. But to the point we mentioned earlier, there's 8 other guys on this list that Penix is going to be throwing to. So, for Michigan, how do you slow down Michael Penix? Because with pressure in his face against Texas, he still found the open man. He still made plays. And for me, this is the interesting thing, right? Washington gave up 64 yards and a touchdown to Baxter from Texas, 59 and a touchdown to Jaden Blue from Texas. Both of those guys are nowhere near Blake Corum.
The level of Blake Corum, yeah, no, not a chance.
So, I feel like Michigan in this game is going to be able to run at will. That's just the gut feeling that I get. But on the flip side, I do think that this Washington team is going to move the football. I don't think there's anybody stopping this passing offense. I just don't see it.
They are definitely going to move the ball. Michigan, honestly, the best thing that could happen to them is getting the ball first.
Yes.
Get the ball first, control time of possession, get in the end zone. And that's something that Michigan is so good at. Coming out of the half, if they get a stop or get the ball, they will just take half of the third quarter away.
Yep.
Just pound and pound and pound the football down your throat until you break and you get a long touchdown run.
Mm-hmm. Michigan is the slowest offense in college football. And that's not me saying that, that's real. They are the slowest offense in college football. And I thought about that and I was like, okay, obviously the number one strategy is what you said there. If I'm Washington and I win that coin toss, I'm receiving 100%. Like I'm taking the ball, I'm going and scoring and saying, "You catch up with us. We're not
Yep.
gonna we're not gonna catch up with you."
Just like they made Texas do.
Exactly. And in that game, Washington, I don't know if you've seen this, Tony, but this blew my mind. The time of possession game in that Washington Texas game, Washington had the ball 36 minutes and 20 seconds. Texas had it 23 minutes and 40 seconds. And Sark said it. Um, I forget when he said it, but he said something about we haven't had the ball the whole third quarter. This is it. Washington found a way to get off the field, sustain drives, kill some clock, and obviously in a game that ends 31-37, they had to do that,
Oh
and
yeah.
they did it. So,
That's what they're gonna have to do on Monday, but without Dylan Johnson, that makes it so much more difficult.
for sure. For sure. And I wish I could tell you that I've watched every single game they've played. I have not. I don't know who is in that running back room as an option. But this is where stars are made, and they need to find somebody who can at least be, an option there to run the ball, right? And that's obviously not how their offense is ran, but you got to have some balance. And I think that's one of the keys to this game is having balance because if you're JJ McCarthy, you have to be able to move the ball. You have to be able to have some success through the air because inevitably, obviously, the game plan is going to be stop the run. So, how do you adjust? And then, if you're Washington, got to find somebody who can run the ball because you can't. I mean, if there's any team that can go into a game and just throw it, it's Washington. But is that what you want to do? No.
Nah, you'll get burned eventually. I mean,
Yeah, for sure. But I don't know. This is trying to pick this game is so hard. It's so hard because you have Michigan who can burn that clock and score when they want to, and then you have Washington who can score in a play or two. I mean, so I think so many different things are important in this game that aren't usually important, like the coin toss, like the opening possession. Um, Special teams, I think, is going to be huge in this game for sure.
and Washington and Michigan are, I'm pretty sure, two of the least penalized teams in the country.
Mm-hmm.
So that's going to be just as important. But if I had to predict a final score, give me like 31-28 Michigan.
31-28. See, I was thinking along the same lines. I don't think this is going to be as low scoring as the 2027, but I don't think it's going to be like crazy. Um I'll go the same line as you, but I'm going to take Washington. And I know you're going to say of course you are. But here's why I'm taking Washington. There are for me, let's go back to the 2017 draft class. Right? Now just follow me. I'll get back with you. In that draft class, you had trying to think. You had obviously Patrick Mahomes. Miles Garrett was the number one pick. Um, Old buddy who's on the Steelers right now. Why can't I remember his name? Mitch Trubisky
Yeah.
was Mitch Trubisky was the guy who was being talked about as like, should he go number one? Should the Browns take him? Thank God we didn't. But my point being is also in that draft class was Deshaun Watson. I see a lot of similarities between Deshaun Watson and Michael Penix. And it's
Hopefully
not
not
because they
all.
both. What'd you say?
I said hopefully not all the similarities.
Yeah. Jeez. But I see a lot of similarities between the two as far as playmaking ability. In college. I'm talking in college, right? And a lot of times, and especially in that draft, you look at it and say, hey, Deshaun Watson, guy who's won national championships, he's looked great, right? Made plays. To me, that's how Michael Penix is right now, right? This is a guy who is making plays, NFL plays, doing everything that he's doing. But come draft time, is he going to be overlooked by somebody else? Who knows? But my point being here is we overthink this so much. And I think it comes down to who is going to be the one that at the end of the day makes the play. And I think that comes down to two guys. I think it's either Blake Corum or it's Michael Penix. Like one of them is going to make the play that ends this game. And for me, just given the fact that I think Washington can score any second, literally any time they touch the ball, give me Washington in a close one. I think they this is another classic game. This is a coin flip game. Could go
for sure.
so many different ways.
I think it'll be more like and speaking of Deshaun Watson, kind of like the Clemson Bama game with Deshaun at quarterback. The
Yeah.
45-40 that Clemson win.
Mhm. Yeah. Whoever wins this game is going to have to come up at the end. Like I don't think
Absolutely.
this is not an Ohio State Alabama national championship where Mac Jones just murders Ohio State. That's not what this game is going to be. This game is going to be strength on strength. Before we get out of here, last thing I wanted to ask you: the Washington defense against this Michigan offense. For me, I don't think it looks great, but the bright side on the Washington defense, their linebackers fly to the ball. They fly to the ball, they're aggressive. The problem with that is that could easily open up mistakes, especially when you're going against a guy like Blake Corum. Um, and then on the flip side, Washington has a good offensive line matched up with Michigan's good defensive line. So the trenches in this game, I think, are a huge, huge part, which I think Michigan has the advantage. But what do you see from that Washington defense that gives you any sort of hope of them stopping the run?
Well, like you said, their linebackers fly to the football. The only problem is Michigan loves to throw wrinkles in there, and one of these times they're going to catch them overcommitting,
Mm-hmm.
and you're going to have Roman Wilson or Colston Loveland streaking down the sideline wide open for a huge JJ McCarthy touchdown pass. They're going to
Yeah.
bite really hard one of these times, and Michigan's going to make a play. They just cannot overcommit. They need to stay disciplined.
Yeah, for sure. I don't know. I think this is the most even national championship game I think we've had since I don't know how long. Because last year obviously wasn't even close.
Bama
Um,
2 years ago, maybe.
yeah, I mean, I don't know. I think we're in for a classic, and the interesting part is you have technically an All Big Ten national championship game with Washington coming next year, and obviously Michigan is who they are, but yeah. So I'm gonna go Washington. You go Michigan.
Yep, go blue.
All right. Yeah. Uh huh. Anything else you want to add before we get out of here?
No, I think that's it.
All right. Well, I'll put Twitters and everything in the description, so go follow Tony. Follow me if you want to. I don't care. But leave a like. Let us know what you think. What's your predictions for this game? What do you think about the playoff games? And are you excited for next year with 12 teams? But anyway, see you in the next one, everybody.